about 26 of them. These are indigenous.
Within Nhyiaeso.
Wow. They are like Accra here. Where can I talk about? They are like Jamestown.
Missy.
Not in terms of beautification or anything.
No.
So like Gamashi, where you have the indigenous tradition.
Like Missy is in Central Accra.
And you know, Kumasi, those traditional houses, one of them can contain about 70 people.
High density.
Families and those things. And most of these indigenous people I'm talking about are not high earners in society. The capital per income is very low. But then, because that place is now an elite area, somehow relatively in Ghanaian standard, a developed area, most of the young ones want to go to school. So you can get one house that during the time of enrolling nursing students and teachers, students or whatever, you will get maybe each house about 5-10. So one community you can get about 30. Whereas other constituencies, about 10 communities, you can get 2 for the year. I don't know if you understand something.
Oh, completely.
If somebody wants you to support him or her for accommodation, other places, when you pay even 2,000, 5,000, the person is good to go. But there, you need to look for 50,000, 20,000 to support. So sometimes people do not know. And it's also a place that most of the rich people live in Accra. So you see big houses, they are empty. I don't know if you understand.
I see. So Kumasi is like their second home now, or perhaps their third home.
Yeah,
so
most
they're
of their
mainly
residents
residents
are here.
in Accra.
Exactly. And even it's one of the reasons, even our elections, ours is different from communities such as Bantoma, Kwadaso, and those places. There, they don't really have residents. Even the MPs, most of them, the MPs live in my constituency. They have their houses there. But there you have the indigenous towns, communities, markets, well entrenched, expanded, and mostly they are all Akans. And they are a class of people in society who live there and work there.
Sure.
But in Nhyiaeso, most of the residential communities, the people live in Accra.
They're like absentee landlords.
Thank you.
Yeah,
you finish everything. So let's
fascinating demographics of Nhyiaeso, and reason why perhaps what you see isn't always, what meets the eye isn't always 100%. The complexity of the matter.
100%. So I say we have the good, bad, and ugly.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, most areas do too, but you're suggesting perhaps that the mix is even more complex in your own constituency. But let's to the mix of what happened yesterday here on the streets of Accra with the STJD, the Save the Judiciary demo. Some people in reaction to this, I don't know if you were listening to the earlier part of the Asase Breakfast Show, we had at least a couple of callers suggesting, oh, this is just the NPP trying to remind a public that has long since dispensed with the services of the NPP. They showed the party the back door definitively on the 7th of December last year. This is just a party trying to remind people that exists, and the business of the Chief Justice and her suspension was an excuse to assemble. Is that a fair reading, or a reading on any level of what happened on the streets of Accra yesterday?
Nhyiaeso, thank you for your question. My regards to our listeners. My voice is not that too good. Yesterday I was shouting.
Oh yes, you were there pounding the streets.
I spoke first, and I had to leave for other things and try to. So my voice is virtually losing.
We sympathize.
Losing its capacity or strength or whatever. But Nhyiaeso, this very morning, apart from that, I think my regards to our listeners and viewers this morning. I think the issue must be seen bigger than the way people are trivializing it. I'm one person, probably because I am into modeling and investment and those things. I always look far ahead. So my actions and commissions and omissions and inaction, basically sometimes it takes a lot of people a while to understand me.
To catch up with you.
Exactly, because I look ahead. You have 3 categories of people in Ghana, or basically in every society. Thank you very much. Every society. We have those who, no matter what you do, they are for A. So even if A is colored black, they don't see it. There are people who are not for A. So if A is colored white, they don't see it. And there are people who are indifferent, they don't even care. And these are some of the basic elements that are always confronting Ghana and that are actually exposing Ghana to bigger framework of danger that people don't know.
Polarized politics.
Exactly. We live in a country, no matter what you say this morning, somebody will change the story. What I want us to look at, I think the problem also comes from some sort of seemingly ambiguity in the whole structure of our separations of power with regard to their individual sovereignties, and also against the political decision doctrine. So there is a clash between political decision doctrine and separations or separation of powers doctrine. And among the three, they have sovereignties. But our system is not like the UK one. It's like the American one. We have a written constitution. And it is proven time and over in most of the major cases in Ghana that the judiciary, in terms of sovereignty, is hard on the two. The two, they have limitations. Sometimes they don't want to accept. But that is what happens. Go and read Adolfo and AG, MPP and AG, the 31st December case, and a lot of the Abudulai and AG. And then you had remarkable JS case like Justice Supreme Court, such as Dateba, Amoah, Justice Akins, all of them making profound statements, affirming the fact that when it comes to the judiciary, even the legislative body, even recently, just the case of this, the deputy speaker in parliament, whether he had a right to vote or not. So whenever there's a clash between all these three bodies, it is a judiciary fair system. So for you to say that because you have space of discretion, and I wonder why I'm not a lawyer, I'm a law student now. I'm not a lawyer. But I wonder why the big lawyers does not even start from their angle. Of course, Article 296 is very important, the use of your discretion. But I think the basis should have come from this. That does the executive body even has the power to touch the apex of our judiciary? Because you are talking about even the constitution. What does Article 1 says? The sovereignty of Ghana actually lies within the powers of the people. And of course, out of that power, we had the constitution. And the constitution, per the two, is supreme. And it says that any law, and for that matter, any other power that is in contravention with the constitution, to the extent of that contravention, is null and void. And what is the body that has the jurisdiction to drive and moderate or make this in terms of enforcement interpretations when it comes to the constitution? It's the Supreme Court. And you want to have the effrontery to touch the apex, the eye of the Supreme Court. You know what is coming to Ghana? That people are comparing that to other issues. I find them to be apples and mangoes being compared. But even just assume they are the same. When it comes to democracy, when it comes to developing a society, it's a process. We are having military rule. Then we came to 92. Look at what happens to our elections in 92. Then 96. Then 2000. We are always having improvement. That's the essence of building a country that has a future. But suddenly, if you want to touch the apex of one of the separations of powers, that seems to be, even in terms of our legal system, in terms of our jurisprudence, seems to be on top when it comes to sovereignty. What you are doing to your country is that you are setting a very dangerous precedent that maybe His Excellency President Mahama will not see what I'm talking about, because people are pushing him. Maybe MPP people, even ourselves, because of politics, we are demonstrating doing all these things. But I analyze things deeper than these things. I deal with underlying variables. Then I deal with the possible future variables and how they will be connected, the impact, whether we'll have what it takes in terms of even measures to deal with the future issues. Gradually, if an empire is getting destroyed or devastated, we don't see where we are going. It can get to the point that one day, God forbid, it doesn't happen. It doesn't have to happen. If somebody rapes my daughter, it can get to the point that the person goes scot-free. Because once the judiciary is touched at this point and in this manner, my sister, it's very dangerous.
It's a long and slippery slope, but the Marxist reading of systems in decline would be that they contain the seeds of their own destruction. You spoke about how the Constitution presents the judiciary as having utmost sovereignty above even the premier and secondary arms of government, the executive and the legislature. But that same constitution does also make provision in Article 146, much quoted and misquoted and quoted again in recent days. It does give room to the president to take complaints, receive complaints from members of civil society, process them, and on the advice of the Council of State, if there is a case to be answered by any judge within the system, including the Chief Justice, therefore bring a process against her. So most people reading the Constitution actually have not raised unconstitutionality as a problem. What they're raising is the question of whether, under the particular circumstances of Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, the president, whatever the advice he was getting, whatever the evidence that was being presented to him, should have used his discretionary powers to say this was a case that he wasn't bringing. But surely, on the kind of advice he was getting from the Council of State, with, if you believe the reports, 30 voices in favour of launching the procedure of suspension, the president was obliged to act. So why can you accuse him, or why do you accuse him, the coalition of political parties, I should say, accuse him of unconstitutionality?
Council of State. You see, one thing about, I am changing a lot because we have a society that if you are very honest, sincere, confident, you speak the truth, you are in trouble, even within your own fraternity. And people have been using that against me for so many years. I've suffered a lot for things I've never done, I've never said, twisted information. I may be afraid of me being too confrontational with issues. So sometimes,
and it's a point you've raised in Parliament as well. But on this specific...
No, that's what I'm coming to.
Yes, but on this specific matter of the Chief Justice, the President, according to most people interpreting the situation, the events of the past month, have said the President is acting within his powers. Those are allowed him by the Constitution.
Even the use of discretion. They have been quoting 296. I'm not a lawyer. Even the use of your discretion. Yes, there is that extract, that constitutional article, talking about, I think, 146. The president has the discretion. But there is also,
and it sets out
there is also a constitutional stipulator extra that talks about the fact that a president can be impeached. In this country, you can never say there has been one president whose position along the stream of his tenure doesn't call for impeachment that we did not. Let's be very practical. That's why even the law, we have the spirit and the letter. That's what we talk about when there are issues with interpretations and some of the even enactments. The best body to deal with is the Supreme Court. So you don't pick it just as it is. They have a discretion, there's a complaint, and that there is a Council of State. Look, practically, the Council of State wouldn't have said opposite. What? You see, one thing about...
Wouldn't it have been the job of the Council of State, if it had a considered opinion that the president would have been abusing his powers, to have put its foot down and said...
So who are the council? What are the constituents of the Council of State? What's the constituents? Basically, they are all for the NDC fraternity. All of them.
Oh, these are people who are supposed to be figures who are above politics.
Madam, let me tell you today this. With my about 30 years of experience in politics, probably I look young in the eyes of a lot of people. But me sitting here, there has never been one MPP man who has debated the rank and file of the NDC more than me. This is a fact. I was debating President Mahama, Hanatete, those days, up to now. Not that I'm lying. I've never gone into hibernation even when we're in opposition. I know the way Ghana is. and by observation, most people in whether NDC, MPP, it's not about Ghana. Basically, it's not about Ghana. I don't want to even go in a lot of issues now. Until Ghana, we got to this level of, I am a politician, I'm a member of Council of State, I'm government appointee, I'm a president, I'm a member of parliament. Between me and my God, my main motivation is to contribute to transforming Ghana. Of course, I have individual interest. Until we get to that level, Nana, we should forget. We should forget. Even look at the analysis by two professors from the same jurisdiction on the same issue. On the same issue that sometimes every 1 + 1 is straightforward. 2. They will go around it because of political interest. Even pastors who are supposed to be guided by the Holy Spirit and angels in Ghana here. I wouldn't say all of them. That one I'm saying doesn't represent, but I'm talking about general, I'm making a general statement. Their comments on issues, go and find out. You find out either they are NDC or MPP, or they have gotten help from MPP or NDC before. So practically, don't let us sit there and allow the truth to be swept under the carpet, and this country will continue to be recycled in this pool of instability, this pool of not going forward, this pool of not being sustainable and always complaining and coming back and rely on IMF, relying on World Bank. A time may come that even Togo, we cannot go there for any help. So most of the, even if MPP government had done something similar or the same, Nana, do we have to continue moving forward? Do all these recycling stuff and game? Let me tell you, all know that even before the NDC came to power, there were comments that they will remove him. There were such comments. It wasn't even official. There was comment. But let me ask you, what they want to do today, is it a good news? Because the president, respectfully, somebody I respect so much. Me, I can never speak against any president. And President Mahama, I respect him a lot. Of course, he's my president. I don't believe in the way they do their things, their ideologies. But I'm very proud that a country such as Ghana, for over 30 years, we've been able to sustain our democracy. Is the greatest thing. But this thing that is happening, it's like injecting the Ghana's body with anti-democratic or democracy pill. And it's going to work in a long term. It's going to deteriorate the body, and we may get terminal disease as a country. And the time may come, we will not be able to heal ourselves. What are we doing? Talking about Chief Justice. That's just trivial issue. Trivial issue. Tell me what she's done that is so dysfunctional to the performance of our republic. It's so dangerous that we should take this major decision. Supreme Court, is this what we want to do to the Chief Justice? And you know power is transient. We may get somebody who is probably very wicked, not probably as moderate as Nanado or as moderate as President Mahama, as moderate as Dr. Baumio, as moderate as you and me. You may get somebody that one day he's so wicked that because of this, he will abuse it to the extent that this country will get into perpetual destruction. And that's why when we are handling some of these lapses and loopholes, even in our laws, we should be careful. We should be careful. And this was important too. MPP was in power in 2008. And this was in power up to 2016. We were in power to 2024. It is telling us something that when you get power, be careful. If they have power and they think they have everything to decide because they have the discretion, and they will abuse it and do whatever they want, no problem. Let me tell you a story. You know, when any government comes to power, mostly those in opposition in the same institution, either some of them are sacked or transferred or whatever. I was made the CEO of Maslok. As soon as I got that position, the next day, one very active NDC boy came to me. I know we are going to be sacked, so I'm coming to tell I'm leaving. I'm saying I will never do that. Even if the president was sacking, I will not do that. I don't believe in it. If we have directors and others to transfer, that one I agree, or board. But to sack somebody because NDC, the guy was shocked. So if you want to go yourself, I don't have any problem. But stay here till any time you want. The guy stay after some time, he found a place to go. Now he's in parliament, and every day he's praising me. I think we can make the change. The fact that I was sacked anyway, I was at National Health Insurance, not government appointee. I was the first person I was asked to resign. That was, I think, March or February 2009. I could have done worse things and say, Nhyiaeso, I think sometimes this issue about laws and that, we are not applying the laws mostly in the interest of the state, but for individual and group interest. But I think the new constitution they want to do, one thing they should be a little bit clearer in terms of distinction or clarity in their responsibilities and functions and sovereignties, although I know it's the judiciary, to clear this problem between political decision doctrine and separation of powers doctrine. Is a very dangerous thing in Ghana here today that we need to look at.
So room perhaps for some steps forward and new space within the constitutional review process, but that is some way off, and we are where we are. And you describe the polarization of politics to the extent where, and I do find it quite remarkable, you find people who are very well versed in the law, who, looking at the same evidence, as you said, as you were looking at, are coming to a completely different opinion on this matter of the Chief Justice, almost leading you to suggest or to ask yourself whether they are aware of some evidence that was put to the President and the Council of State that we don't know of, that is not yet in the public domain, that conclusively proves that the Chief Justice has a case to answer. Leaving that aside, though, the coalition and she answered, but we don't know whether the answers, the responses that we got from the Chief Justice are the full response to the full set of petitions made against her. But be that as it may, there was a very impressive showing of people determined to stand up for what they believe on the streets of Accra. It was uniquely Accra yesterday. On this march going from the Supreme Court to Parliament, where there was some events which I might want to ask you about in a minute, onto Jubilee House to present this petition to the three arms of government represented there, their ladyships and lordships themselves at the Supreme Court, the executive and the legislature. What were you asking for specifically in the petition that you presented to the three institutions yesterday? Okay,
in the first place, I must be honest with you, I had some sort of assignment which was inevitable, so I went there very early, energized some of the people there, and then I spoke, and it was all around. So I didn't go to the Jubilee House. But I think basically, we're just looking for the fact that the attempt to remove the Chief Justice was something that was going to be very dysfunctional to the performance of this republic. It was going to kind of inject a new toxic element in our democratic structure, and it's going to set a very bad precedent, and it's going to also border on fundamental human rights, and it's also going to disturb the reciprocity that we need to exist, prevail among the three separations of powers, to have a very strong country. What they are doing, and I see different things. It's not because they want to remove her. Of course, if they remove her, they will bring somebody. But what I'm saying is, this precedent, if one day you don't take care, this is where my fear is. And we don't get somebody who might be as moderate as President Mahama, as moderate as Nanado, as moderate as former President Kufuor, and all this. And you get somebody who is truly genetically born tyrant, and he wants to abuse some of these things. The person might come from MPP side or NDC side. So when you are making decisions, you need to analyze the possible effect and impact on the future generation.
Yes, but you can't act purely on the basis of a worst case scenario. So what were you asking for? So what are the best case scenarios? The worst case scenario of having an absolute despot, like you describe, a Pol Pot figure, or somebody who comes in, chooses to reinvent constitutional terms or read meanings into constitutional arrangements at will, or push push things to a logical conclusion that you, as you said, may not respect the spirit in which the laws were written. But what are you asking for in this specific case? Because we don't want it to be just about the individual Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, but she is the woman who occupies that office at the moment. She has been suspended. It is an incident without precedent in our Fourth Republic. It has happened only on one other occasion in modern Ghanaian history in 1963, and that is not an episode that most people were expecting us ever to have to revisit. So in this specific case, in that petition that you presented, what are you asking for? For the president to just turn back on his own opinion? How would that be possible? Or for other bodies, such as, for example...
But has the president finalized or confirmed or concluded his...
No, but he has suspended her.
Exactly.
So what are you asking for?
But if you suspend somebody,
a revocation
you can bring the person back. So the thing is still in its preliminary stage of processes, because the president has not finalized everything legally, has he? I don't think he has. So if the president and the NDC leadership, they are a listening body, definitely they have to listen to the people, because the power lies within the sovereignty lies within the power of the people.
Honourable Stephen Amoah, the NDC would say precisely it is listening to the people, because if you listen to the other side, which unfortunately is the majority voting side in the last election,
excuse me, let me correct something here. Let me correct something here. The fact that 4 million, 5 million, 6 million people voted. Let me finish. Let me finish. The fact that saving 10 million people voted for MPP
out of the 31
and 12 million voted for NDC, I'm just making a particular statement. Doesn't mean that this particular case, all of them is in support. So that one, no. I have no NDC guys who are lawyers and they are not in support of it.
But the most vocal voices out there are saying that the president acted constitutionally. I don't think the most vocal voices. If I may land,
I don't think most vocal. I disagree.
We can disagree about who's hearing who loudest, but the fact is that there is a preponderance of opinion on the other side of the political divide from where you stand in favour of this process and saying the law is the law. They are following the law. They're following constitutional arrangements set out under such provisions such as Article 146 and making sure they follow them quite scrupulously. So given that we have begun, or President Mahama has begun this process on the advice of the Council of State, we know of only, according to the news reports, only one voice that wasn't even against, that abstained, and has since set out her opinion about why the process should be embarked on with great caution, as you're suggesting, and that maybe the Chief Justice doesn't have a case to answer. How do you expect the President to proceed from here to roll back the process that was begun with the suspension of the Chief Justice, if the belief is she does have a case to answer, but all you're saying is you need not suspend her while you're getting your evidence together? What should the president be doing now that you've asked him for in the petition?
Before then, you've said quite a number of things. I think I should also have the opportunity to respond to. In the first place, what did the Ghana Bar Association do? They have NDC guys there. A lot of them, MPP died. When they decided how many people appended their support against the decision that is probably about to be finalized. That is why I'm saying that if you're talking about preponderance, even that one is quite questionable. Whether the needed elements within this particular defined set or domain, we have larger numbers supporting what the government is doing. 2, we've been quoting 146. You spoke at length. Let me also speak some more. Everybody is quoting 146, 146. But these issues or this particular issue goes beyond just one constitutional extract or article. We are talking about a clash between the executive power and the judiciary. That's one. That is among the separations of powers. We are talking about a controversial space that has been created with respect to political decision doctrine and separations of powers. 3, we are talking about fundamental human rights. We are talking about our democracy either being entrenched or being undermined. And there are different constitutional extracts. You are talking about Article 1 and 2, talking about Article 17, you are talking about Article 130, you are talking about even the use of discretion 296. We are talking a number of them. And I think it's chapter 11 or 12 of the Constitution that deals with Article 125, talking about the whole of the judiciary. Then you talk about 57 about the executive body. Go and read all of them. So on a scale of probability and balance, what the president and his authority are doing is not right. It is wrong. If you have been any country that was subjecting this to proper scrutiny, public legal analysis, it's possible socioeconomic impact, its political impact and the future of a country with respect to endangering our democracy, endangering that coherence that we need as a country, and per other issues that are in terms of priority and precedent, they are so important that this political decision doctrine that they want to embark on, the president shouldn't do what it is doing. He shouldn't do what it is doing. But hey, this is Africa. He wants to do what he wants to do because they have power. It's more of show of power than demonstration of legal processes that is going to inure, that is going to bring forth what will benefit this country. That should be what they think of. I mean, if the Supreme Court Chief Justice, or what if the Chief Justice is removed or is not removed, what will be its negative impact on this country? Let's analyze that. You don't make just decision because even you think a particular law extract says this. When you make a decision as a president, you are the father of this nation. What you need to analyze is that if this decision is made, what legacy is it going to leave in my name in this country? What positive things or negative things are we going to get from the pros and cons today and tomorrow for today's generation and tomorrow's generation? This is what we are talking about. This is what we are talking about. So even if one law, one extract says this, let's also ask about the spirit of what he wants to do. So it's not right. What they are doing is totally unacceptable and it's not right.
Which the business of the, which is why perhaps the business of the suspension of the Chief Justice is without precedent in our modern history. Well, certainly the history of the Fourth Republic. Some would suggest that when it comes to the point that you made about sovereignty and separation of powers, that in fact, even though you point to the independence and the sanctity of the judiciary being one of the most important concepts outlined in our constitution, one would like to think that also individual freedom and freedom and justice are also deeply ingrained in the framing of the constitution. That because unlike the other two principal arms of government, the executive and the legislature, the judiciary is not an office that is subject to reassessment once appointed or to election of any sort, let's put it that way. That puts the judiciary in a position to be uniquely harmful, because if it is corrupted as an institution, and we've seen recent cases where swathes of our judges had to leave office being found culpable of wrongdoing, that because it is not subject to the same scrutinies and repeated tests as the two other elected arms of government, that is why if there is even the faintest taint of suspicion attaching to any judge in this country, including the Chief Justice, the constitutional provisions must be gone through with scrupulous care and be seen to be gone through with scrupulous care. Despite everything that you said about the president not using the discretionary powers set out in 296, do you, as the coalition of political parties, accuse him of acting unconstitutionally? I
think on a scale of probability, no, on a scale of how do I put it? Because I'm not a lawyer, I'm always being careful the choice of my terminologies, because I think they understand their terms. I think to some extent, if you have just a simple, reasonable man to analyze this whole thing, you say yes to some extent, because the same constitution makes it clear that judiciary is basically the vehicle that handles our constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. 2, there are so many cases in Ghana here handled by, top respected justices, that those cases have become precedent. And all the inferences supported the fact that the executive body and the legislative body, in terms of powers and in terms of sovereignty, are limited. UK, yes, is the legislative body. So even this issue about the president has a discretion, I'm telling you, it can be also subjected to another legal tussle at the Supreme Court. That yes, you have a discretion, but do you have power to do this because of this discretion and deal with the apex body of the judiciary body? It's a very controversial thing that we need to analyze. I think the debate should have started from there, and then we should have come to the 296, and then should have also come to the point where what would have been the possible consequences, output of this decision on our country. We should have considered all these things. We are not living in an autocratic environment or space, or we are not living in an environment of vindictiveness, or I want to make this decision because even the law says this. No. Why do we preside over a country? You preside over a country because you want to create a redistribution opportunities, one for people to have space to enjoy their human rights, their freedom, security, food security, safety, health, education, infrastructure, continuity, sustainability, development. Ask any of these areas the president's decision today to remove the Chief Justice. What is its impact going to be on us? Let's be very honest. Even you sometimes even shift the laws more and analyze these things. So what is the main objective of the president? What's the main objective? Because decisions are always made as a result of the fact that there are objectives to attain.
One would hope in the interest of the people, and would say in Ghana's case, precisely why we have not seen that many previous attempts to remove the Chief Justice, other than the one instance in 1963.
Sure. Look at that.
You look at a neighbouring country. Well, let's not get into that. That's a whole other can of worms that perhaps we shouldn't open up. But in other West African countries, such as Sierra Leone, it's accepted as de rigueur, new king, new Chief Justice, and people remove Chief Justices at will with transitional governments. We have had much more stability in Ghana under the last president. Everybody quotes the example, for example, of Her Ladyship, Chief Justice Theodora Wood, who served 3 presidents of 2 very different political colours, and was very long in the job, serving 10 years on the Supreme Court. We have got to this pass, one must assume, because we are under exceptional circumstances, either under exceptional political circumstances or under exceptional constitutional circumstances. Given the balance of power that we have in Ghana now, realistically speaking, what next steps do you expect the president to take in direct response to the petition you presented yesterday during the Save the Judiciary?
Okay, I'm going to do that, but just a quick one. I made a point that you can admonish me, which I agree with you. But the point I was emphasizing was that 1962, our democracy was 3 years. It was 3 years.
our Republican constitutional arrangements
where we had our own power to manage from 57. And then from that time up to now, even include the disturbances. Our democracy is about 68 years. So probably decisions that were taken about 68 years ago had not even been born. Could we have still repeated such mistakes? So we should take that. But coming back to your question, I think the president should do the right thing to show to Ghanaians that he is a listening leader. He is a listening leader.
What is doing the right thing?
Right thing by stopping this whole process and controversy and brouhaha overall this whole issue about removing Chief Justice. The Chief Justice has to be restored. There should be that restoration for Ghana to move on. Mind you, a lot of investors are watching us. We shouldn't forget about that. Anywhere in the world, one of the things every investor looks at is the stability, rule of law in any particular country on the continent of Africa, because they think we are not stable. And they do that, one major reason, to be sure of the entrenchment of their property rights when something happens.
But
I'll be honest, so some of these things will let them sit back.
Honourable Stephen Amoah, most people, and I hope you would agree, would say that principle is more important than money, particularly in view of what you said about discretionary powers in this particular case. So if...
No, it depends on what type of principle. No, it's not every principle.
So the principle of there being a case, according to at least 3 not just individual petitions. One of the petitions we know was brought by a group, a civil society group. What should happen to the content? What should happen to the content of those petitions, even if tomorrow President Mahama were to decide to revoke the process of the suspension of the Chief Justice?
No, but it's petition. You analyze the petition. They might even have cases or issues, but you realize that the tenacity or the magnitude of the cases they are bringing probably might not be so much enough to make this dangerous decision.
What should the president do with the substance of those petitions?
I think the president should get all petitioners and other stakeholders on board, review all these things they are doing, and probably make the right decision and let them understand that, okay, maybe your case A, B, C, D might hold some sort of water, but looking at the magnitude of the issues we are handling, the possible impact. You are talking about principles. Some of the principles might not augur well for our future. It's not every principle that is right. It's not every tenet that is right. So some principles, if we adhere to, may rather be causing devastating consequences. Some of them, yes, because we have wrong principles and we have bad, good principles. Even army leader who wants to lead a country through coup d'etat, they also have their principles. But whether the principle is good or bad, we should look at it. And that's why I like one great man, is it A.V. Dicey. I mean, we need to look at a lot of issues. Nanaya, we are toying and joking with these things because somebody's in power. I mean, is it? Do you want to tell me that the group that came, they were so neutral, they had issues? As of now, I don't think they've stated any one major, so credible issue that if we don't attend, we will throw this Ghana or this country out of jail. That's why I'm not saying they don't have any case. I'm not saying they have a case or they don't have not read it. I cannot come and lie to you. But what I'm saying is that as of now, there isn't anything that if the Chief Justice is allowed to be in her position, Ghana is going to suffer what? They should come and tell us. What? Ghana is going to suffer what? That some of them are saying that she traveled with her family and per diem. Christ. Per diem. So is that what we are talking about?
You may regard it as petty, but clearly it's of the first importance to certain people. And some would say that if you had a Chief Justice persisting in office with those sorts of allegations hanging over his or her head, you would be demeaning the institution and actually bringing it into disrepute, and that it is better that the person occupying the position, whoever it is, stand aside, address the case brought against them, and then when their name is cleared, return to the office. Is that not a process that is allowed for by the action that the president has taken?
We think they are actually having prejudicial positions. That's what we think. It's politically kind of closed processes that is being conducted. 2, they should come to the public, show us all chief justices, their expenditures, their per diems, those within their discretionary powers to spend, those that were statutory to spend, and let us see if this woman has done something unprecedented, untoward, something that is setting very dangerous precedent in the body of that judiciary. Then we can agree with them. They should bring all of them. Now you'll be shocked. You see, we live in a country. I don't want this issue about MPP, NDC. I'm tired. Look, I was on one radio. It's not necessary, but I want to see where I'm coming from. Well, is it joy or something? And they're like, oh, the energy minister is saying that MPP left that, they can't do this. He's virtually wailing. Had it been my first sticker, I would have started shouting, no, this is that. You people left that. You did this, so we had to do T1, T2, Aswagli. No, you left this. Because they also left that for us. But I've come to realize that recycling these blame games because of power has not helped Ghana. So I went on a neutral path that he said what he said might be true or not. Now I'm an external stakeholder, so I may be suffering from asymmetric information issues or management. But what I want to tell him is that these things, in my opinion, are outmoded. They are primitive. Let us redefine a new paradigm shift and build this country. How can we do that? Yes, there are energy problems. We've gone through about 6 or 5 or 8 different democracies. These were the same things we were complaining during Rawlings's time, Kufuor's time, Mahama's first time, Nanado's time. It's back. Are we a kind of people that we still want to do this to ourselves? Can't we have a new approach? That, okay, there are probably some sort of fundamental anomalies in our country over 30 years, 40 years. We've been blaming each other to get power. We haven't been able to solve the problems. Do we still stay there? No. What is the way forward? MPP, what are the common issues? I was in the market to buy tomatoes. Sometimes I cook for myself. One small tomato, like maybe medium size, before God I serve, was 5 cedis. Kumasi, not even Accra. I even made mention of the one I was talking. Yeah. I made mention because, not because I'm blaming President Mahama on the NDC, but I want to alert Ghanaians that these things that we've been using back and forth every time, there are systemic problems that as a country, we need to change small and solve them. And if you don't take care, we will come and start blaming everything on Mahama. Then they will come and blame, and then Ghana will stay access. What they are doing, in a way, they are like, oh, we are taking vengeance. I see more of a vengeance position on the side of the NDC because they thought, oh, the EC was removed, the Supreme Court was done this, this person came, and because the Constitution doesn't give upper ceiling, we have to fill. Do we continue these things? Is it all about MPP and DC? Or is it all about the ordinary child on the street, truly from our heart? Is it all about fact that between Adenta and Rage? Increasingly, there are barefooter kids. What can we do? Is it all about MPP and DC being in power whilst we know that inflation rate, we are not economically independent, we are just, this thing has been going on, power issues, poor education, infrastructure, we keep on somebody, even within the same party, people lie, they package themselves, they pay money to the media, they don't even know, they don't understand a lot of things, and then they even force the presidents to appoint people who are not even right, and the same people will come and attack the president. Everything is about Steka's interest, because Steka wants to be rich, wants to have power. Now, politics is basically about enterprise. We need to move beyond these things because it's painful. Once you want to do politics, please, it's because of Ghana. Of course, it doesn't mean you should die or you shouldn't get money. Seek ye the kingdom first. Seek ye the interests of Ghanaians first, and yours will follow. Nanaya, that is not practically what is happening in our country. It's not only under NDC, it's not only under MPP. How can we change? And it's not only politicians. The police down there is taking bribe. It doesn't mean every policeman. The chief is selling one piece of land to 5 people. The pastor is cheating somebody to take money. The media practitioner is taking money to destroy somebody or elevate somebody, not in a deserved manner, not meritorious approach. Can we look at all these challenges? How can we as a country complete the entire value chain of our Greek so that there wouldn't be a time that tomato will be 5 cedis and at a time we have to throw all them away? How can we come together so that Doomso as a country we have rivers and other things? What can we do? I think we need to begin a new public conversation, not having underlying interest, but genuinely between us and our God and the good people of Ghana, serve them well. Other than that, look, there's so many issues in our country. You are concentrating on removing the Chief Justice.
So
is that what you're interested in?
That is precisely what I wanted to ask you about, Honourable Stephen Amoah, that cynics might say that it's very easy to look at the big picture and the national interest when you're in opposition, when you have the privilege or the comfort of being high-minded and sticking to points of principle. When in power, it becomes the boots on the other foot, and so you then develop the cycle that you've just described of you do me, I get into power, and I do you worse, and it goes back and forth and just deteriorates with every turn of the cycle, particularly on the business of the Chief Justice, because this was about saving the judiciary as a corpus that is one of our arms of government. Are you convinced that this coalition of political parties has found an issue that a general public is sincerely interested enough in that they will follow you through the full course of action that you intend to take to see this matter to a conclusion? I think, wouldn't you say that most people are focused on precisely what you've been describing, the single tomato that costs 5 cedis?
I want to get it clearly that the people who support the cause to kind of something to stop this removal, or you're talking about
are they particularly interested in the cause that you have described as in supporting the judiciary as the most important sovereign institution of state? Or are they more likely?
No, I get you now.
So are they going to essentially want to follow you through as a coalition of parties in this course of action?
Just before that, you made a very important statement. Just you said that, oh, is it not that maybe now that I'm in opposition, I'm making those comments. Nanaya, if you follow me clearly, to me it's one of the reasons I think when we're in government I suffered. Because some of my colleagues were lying about me to some of the big people in our party. Because my colleagues who were lying about me knew my potential, they knew to some extent I'm not perfect, but I was a very straightforward person. And I made such comments, they even sometimes twist it and send it to the presidency. I'm being honest, I'm that tired. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. So it's not today I'm talking about this. That is me, Stephen Amoah. And I know I've suffered for that. I've suffered in many ways. And normally I don't want to talk about these things. Maybe one-on-one you can understand me.
Sure.
But coming back to what you're saying, there is a big problem in Ghana. So most Ghanaians might even follow us, not because they understand the issues. Or they may not even follow us, not because they understand the issues. How many Ghanaians care about Chief Justice?
Exactly.
What they say, but people who are well educated, they need well to subject this to proper scrutiny and analysis, and analyze the pros and cons today and tomorrow, and the possible consequences. We know that what we are saying makes sense.
So the Save the Judiciary.
I don't know if you understand.
So the Save the Judiciary demo was a demonstration of the elite who have the ability to understand these issues.
In a way to find a way to also let certain class of people along the social stratification to also get what we mean. When I was speaking on the platform, after trying to speak a little bit about the legal aspect and those things, I came so low to the extent that what is happening, if you don't stop it today, a time may come. If somebody steals your turn as an ordinary Ghanaian, the judiciary, because it's not being effective, will affect you. If somebody, God forbid, rapes your child, the person might go scot-free, might have gone or may go scot-free. To this extent, an ordinary person listening to me will begin to sit up. Let me speak to you, I beg respectfully. Because, hey, they say the Abba no. After the baby create as a minyasma, ye dear Mediadum Becono, his encrophobia, Homo Yaseno. And remember, NDC has an origin military rule. So anybody and a near few or mammy penny or yabrewa, oh, what happened? Oh, can the image machines? Are we going back to that situation? So don't let it depends on how we MPP's problem and also the problem of this country is how we communicate. Sometimes we don't communicate well to the extent that by the time we realize people have formed their opinion. Just like this COVID-19, the world crisis, one of the reasons they booted MPP out of power. Genuinely, the factors, I'm not saying 100%, but about 70% wasn't our fault. It was a global issue. And Ghana, as a country, we have systemic problems already. But we could not communicate well for ordinary child who is sitting somewhere and is hungry and cannot get food to buy or to eat, to want to know that, yes, it's a problem, I'm complaining, but this one, you cannot blame Nanado too much. Something like, but let me bring this. You know the bondholders.
The DDP, the Domestic Debt Exchange Program.
Yeah. Even recently, it was used. Some people use that against Akufo-Addo. It's so painful. Any bondholder, if he's angry with our government, he's right. If he didn't vote for us, he's right. If he insulted us, he's right, because he is a victim of circumstances, something unpalatable. But anybody who understands finance and economics and investment, like me here, between me and my God, not because I'm MPP, will tell you that when there's a holdout, there's no any other alternative. When the issuer of bonds, there's a situation, whether it's his fault or not his fault, and can never pay, you restructure. And you restructure by making provisions to extend maturity date and reducing the payments you make periodically so that you can be in a position to pay. The one who is the holder, because he's suffering, will not be happy with you, of course. So they were right. But it's not a picture like, oh, there was an alternative and Akufo-Addo didn't do. But because we could not communicate well, I even still do. I import body stuff and vitamins because I have a pharmacy shop. One of the items before COVID, it was £19.99. I've forgotten. I think I need to check. After the COVID, when we're going through all those hard times, it got to £29.99, which was about £10 different. £10 difference that time was over 200 Ghana cedis. So even when I had not imported the thing, they had added over 200 Ghana cedis. Somebody who's coming to buy that from Zentas Pharmacy, my shop, they didn't care, doesn't care landing, or he will be very angry. But how could we explain these things, communicate well for people to be on board? So the point I'm making is that your question is very legitimate. But the point is, it depends on how those who are saying no, don't do it, and those who are saying yes, the superior communication network and the cascading effect. Or because my mother at home understands things different from me, understands different from you. How do we explain the same thing so that along the line, genuine people understand, apart from those who don't have their minds? And that's the weakness of MPP. And even sometimes, they don't allow the right people to handle these things because of personal interest, personal prosperity, because of they think it's an enterprise to make money, and you cannot speak. And it's still happening even now. It's still happening.
Well, leaving aside the internal problems of the NPP, of which I'm sure there are many, which the resolution process in the party, one would hope, will begin to address in the coming months.
I hope so.
If President Mahama follows his current course of action to its logical conclusion and does indeed remove the Chief Justice, dismiss her, what will be the response from the coalition of political parties?
I think
briefly,
myself as an individual, I can't sit here and say we'll do this. That would be very premature. We have leadership. We are working together. I think that we'll reconvey and make a decision. I hope you understand what I'm saying. His decision will inform us our next decision.
Do you expect it to be the kind of galvanizing issue that could push things politically in your favor? Or, as you say, are people more focused on the cost of tomatoes? So really what happened on the streets of Accra yesterday is more for the optics and, as you say, for a small refined class or enlightened class?
I think there's so many issues. The tomato, as well as this, is very important. Depend on how you communicate. Because if right now, yesterday when I spoke, somebody met me at one of the places I normally have my lunch. He and his friends, he said that he decided not to attend the demo. But the way I spoke very early. His son, is it social media or Facebook? He rushed there because he saw the sense in what I was talking about. That if the judiciary or the judicial system is not free and can be treated anyhow by any executive body, then his family member and his kids, at time may come that thing. So they came. So what I'm saying, it depends on how the whole thing will be communicated and how we handle it, so that they will see the importance of it. But talking about the president's decision, I think that will rather also inform us our next line of action, because we don't know the decision he's taking now. And we hope he will listen to us. He will listen to Ghanaians. Because a lot of Ghanaians are also not happy. Trust me, there are a lot of things they said, and they are not seeing any difference. And I'm not blaming President Mahama or the NDC. The only thing is that a lot of Ghanaians, because the way MPP and NDC handle when one is in government, Ghanaians always, some of them, not all, think that, oh, if tomato is 5 years, it means it's Mahama who has caused it. If there's power outage, he might not have even known that probably about 30, 20 years ago, have these issues up to now. Something has changed on the world market or not, and this we use against them. So I think now it's the warfare or the war thing is basically communication tactics. And this is where the MPP and the entire Ghanaian community should come to the point that we shouldn't say that we are going to pay NDC back with unnecessary attacks. But how can we let Ghanaians understand that the things they use against us, probably you people made a lot of mistakes because you were misled or misinformed. We want to come to the point that these are the true issues or pictures. Make your decision. So that somebody wouldn't come and lie to you that, oh, free school, it didn't bring quality. And people, oh, it's not quality. It's not quality. It's not. When you ask, they say, oh, because you do extra classes. I did extra classes 40 years ago, Opokuwari. Voice vacation, and even my father was illiterate, but my father had money. Aki Ola were teaching me. Oh, Aki is alive now. We were having 3 breaks every year. One of them was about 3 months. Our food was not good. So granules, we were calling it gas oil 40 years ago. When you even get entrance, you pass very well, and you're going to the school, they made most of them day students because they said that because of hardship, they did not have beds. That the population was about 40 million. But today we are using the same issues because of politics. And Ghanaians believe in them. And this is where I'm begging MPP and DC. That I beg them, enough is enough, or enough of whatever is happening. Let's see Ghana first. It's a beautiful country, endowed with a lot of glorious raw materials, natural resources, good human resource in terms of skill component, that if we stop making politics basically just enterprise and just thinking about group and individual interests in line with prosperity and power, Nanaya, this country within 15 years, trust me, no one will finish school and stay here 2 years and it's not working. Do you know about 10% of averagely 106,000, 109,000 tertiary students who graduate within that period of graduation get jobs to do? This is a very serious issue. Meanwhile, we have look at even Accra here. That the land is not as fertile as Western and Ashanti and Volta. Look at all these beautiful things we see. So what is the problem? Our mindset. Our mindset. And the president should look at these things and set the pace.
Dr. Stephen Amoah, a note of caution there to end on to the executive arm of government. Dr. Stephen Amoah, of course, is the MP for Nhyiaeso, prominent member of the NPP's front bench in Parliament, and the former Deputy Minister for Finance. Thank you so much for joining us on the Asase Breakfast Show.
It's a pleasure having me here.
And yes, I think we're almost out of time, unfortunately, on the Asase Breakfast Show, but stay tuned.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.